athletes turned therapists. Our focus in these episodes is to humanize the athlete experience beyond the lines of their arena. In this podcast, we will explore the whole athlete, highlighting the mental, emotional, and social aspects of their journey.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Millennium's Athlete Wellness Podcast. Today, Sarah and I are going to talk a little bit about our journeys to working out after our careers ended. I think it's a great dynamic to have on the pod. So we have kind of different stories and different routes that we took, but I think a lot of our listeners will be able to kind of relate to some of the things that we're going to talk about today. But to remind people, I played basketball at Georgetown University, and Sarah was a volleyball star at Mizzou.
Stop. I was not a volleyball star, but yes, I did play volleyball at Missouri. I did.
Yes. So we are just going to talk a little bit about how we reconciled with working out again after such a rigid and scheduled format where we didn't really have much autonomy in how we wanted to move our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
No. Do you have anything to start us off, Sarah?
Yes. I feel like I'm like, when I'm thinking about this now, it's just so interesting. I mean, I'm 32. I'm the ripe age of 32. So, this isn't like I'm fresh out of college, but it is so interesting doing this series too, and just like reflecting back to the experiences like immediately after sport and how much that transition is like, it's just so challenging in and of itself in so many aspects. But I'm really glad we're talking about this today, because that was one of my greatest struggles was this idea of just working out like right when I ended. And I got my first job in downtown Chicago, and I was in like the corporate America world. So immediately I jumped into that. And what's so funny about that is that kind of became my all or nothing mentality, was just like the career and sales and all of it. And then this like PR component. And so I dove in headfirst there, and I completely neglected like taking care of myself, to be completely honest. But what's really interesting about this is I don't think I really knew how to. I think the biggest thing here is like so many of us are just taught to like grind, and you're going to the gym to train. And I was so used to doing group workouts or having a strength and conditioning coach, trainer, you name it. So like everything was so rigid and so scheduled, and like the times where you don't want to go, you have to go. So there's not really an option there. And I think for me, the freedom You're fine. You're fine. I think for me, the freedom of choice was really challenging at first. I learned how to harness it eventually, which you can talk about, but the freedom of choice was really challenging for me. And I didn't even really know like what working out healthily meant to me or meant for me. I tell people this, like my first year out of school, I think I went to a gym maybe once, maybe twice. My thing was like I tried to run a couple times, but even then it's so sad, but I really did have such a distaste from working out. And because I also didn't know what it meant for me. And I think there's another piece of this too, tied into it, is like a layer of shame that I know some people talk about, but not everybody talks about, is like the shame you experience when you're like, wait, like it's so hard to get up and go to the gym. And also like, I don't want to be doing the same workouts that I used to do. I don't have my team there. I don't have that support there. I don't have the trainers there or the strength coaches there. So it's like, I remember I experienced a lot of shame, and also seeing my body change. That was also really challenging for me. So moving through that, there's a lot of like even grief in that way. But yeah, that was the beginning of it. I mean, it obviously, things have shifted a ton, which is like something I feel like I talk a lot about with my clients too, especially like my females. But this is universal, male, female. It doesn't matter. I think a lot of people experience this right out of sport. Yeah, I'm curious about you, Lil. What did you feel?
Yeah, mine was interesting. So I had dealt with a bunch of injuries before my college career ended. So I had kind of done the rest period while I was still on my team, because I was like forced to stop from injury. So by the time I was done with sport, I felt like, okay, but I'm also healed. So I need to go at it like full throttle. So I did not really take much of a break and definitely leaned on what I knew, which was the strict, okay, I don't have someone creating the schedule for me, but like, let me just create my schedule, to the point where I literally remember printing out a schedule and I would like write workout class I was going to go to every day. And I would do it. And it was 5 days a week. And I was Soul Cycle, Core Power, Berries, Solid Core, spending so much money on a bunch of group fitness classes. But in that moment, like that was what I could control. And that became a part of me that was like, if I don't do one of those things, I noticed a shift in how much of like a short temper I would have with my friends, or how disorganized I would be in classes if I wasn't able to, or even just like this was in grad school too, in classes, I like needed to do those workouts to have a clear mind to do those things. But I
Mhm.
think now, multiple years away from that, I still do all of those things, but just at like a smaller scale, which has been a journey and has been a journey for me, like through therapy as well. So I think for me, it was this idea of making a workout count, or it like wouldn't count if it wasn't really, really, really difficult. And I
Mhm.
think this is something that has
Yeah.
followed me in a lot of different areas of my life too, whether it be work or grad school or whatever it may be. Like it's just like I expect something to be hard, and I'm gonna be drenched in sweat, or I'm gonna be like almost puking after a sprint or whatever it may be because I pushed my body to a limit. Whereas in grad school and now at work, I'm like, if something came natural or easy, I almost am like, oh no, like I need to do something. I need to do it again. Like that was too easy. That doesn't count. So that's sort of been a thing with me in navigating what working out looks like. And now we were joking about this before, but we have a bunch of sessions today. And I was like, if I get some time to go walk outside and it's like literally a block around my apartment, that for me was me like moving my body. And I know it's kind of cliche, but I really think it's helped me to shift it from like working out to moving my body too, is like using that language switch up, and that language change has been helpful for me because for so long a workout was so much sweat and like gasping for water and gasping for air. Whereas like moving my body just seems a lot more like all encompassing and more free, and just honestly a little bit more like spiritual too.
I love that you talked about that. I feel that. I feel that like that shift from it is kind of that shift from all it really is all or nothing mentality, or that idea of this like rigidity to more of this like wholeness and like oneness and balance. And it's so funny. You and I are just like we literally are like two other ends of the spectrum here, because I went the nothing route, and that also is not fulfilling.
Mhm.
It wasn't fulfilling for me, but I also just want to highlight like everybody's journey through this is so unique. So I just wouldn't be surprised if there's like one end, of athletes who experiences that are very similar to me, and then also on the other end very similar to you, and just
Mhm.
like we got to go. There always has to be a reward tied to it too. I remember feeling that as well. And when I did work on the times that I did work out, and I remember I'd always feel like, "Oh, I'm coming up short." I was like, "Why even try?" And so for me, I think the greatest shift of all, which is it really is about reframing how you view it. It comes down to truly how you reframing how you view it, but for me, it was like this once I started accepting that working out is not the benefactor will always be that your body there's the outcome will always be that your body will feel better. That's just the truth. Not always, but for the most part, like, you're going to get the physical benefits most of the time when move your body or you work out. But that just didn't like, looking at that way didn't entice me the same way it used to, and so I really shifted my mindset to being like, "This is for my mental health." Like,
Mhm.
when I really started, like, diving into more, like, this is for, like, my spiritual like, my time to myself and working out for me and however I wanna work out, it really, like it just totally shifted my experience, and I feel like I fell in love with cycling, like, so much.
Mhm.
Like, I loved biking, and I loved taking cycling classes as well. But for me, like, yes, that feeling of but that's another piece of this, like, I loved Soul Cycle because there was a community component to it as well, and now, personally, like, if I go to the gym, like, I love just going on a bike, and and listening to music. That is how I like, it's like my free form of like flow and deeper connection with myself. It's my space. And so
Mhm.
that's really how I shifted kind of from this whole like body toning, all of it, which just was not healthy for me, to more of this like, I'm healing these mental and emotional needs I need in order to move my body. Like I'm
Yeah.
sure is similar to you in your own way.
I feel like when we talk about like shifting our mindsets and reframe and just kind of like that whole component to that too, the thing that comes up for me is values. Like my value when I was an athlete and like what I value again was also rewards, like that external like motivation and whatever you're getting of just like, I want to be the best basketball player. I want to win conference. I want to do all of these things. And you just don't have that like overarching framework when you leave that. So then you kind of have to like come back to the drawing board and you're like, okay, me as Lily, not as a member of a team, but like a member of society who's now working, who's not a part of a team, who's like, what do I value? And I feel like that is when the other piece of like, okay, I want a strong base mental health sort of organization or support system in my life. And that was when I feel like that was like the value shift for me. But if I don't have the value piece of it, it's really hard for me to follow along those shifts because I need like the why. Still, we need like in any sort of workout or in any sort of thing. So I don't know if people are going through this transition right now in whatever stage that you're in, whether you're working out a bunch and it's like too much or you're taking a break from it too. I think the best like advice or I don't know, but like the something that I think we would both say to our clients in this space too or in this kind of stage would be like what do you value and what are your new set of goals and like how is working out going to be kind of like a supporting factor or what how do you need to like reframe that too? Because I think it's hard. It's just like, oh, just reframe. Like if you throw that around, that's really difficult.
I what you just said is like is so profound. I'm so serious, and the way you explained it was just so profound. So I hope anybody that's listening to that took that little piece, because I'm so serious. Like, you kind of took us through how you were able, literally how you were able to make that shift, and even the shifts that we try to help with clients, and actually like breaking it down and slowing it down. And when you say values, I'm like, yes, 100%. It's so value based. And for me, I always think of value tied to meaning. Like, what is it
Mhm.
to me? Like, how can I make meaning from this experience too? And like, I feel like so much of, it's interesting, so much of my value, yes, was tied to sport and tied to, working out as an athlete. But there's another piece of this too. And I feel like for me, there was also these unrealistic expectations I put on myself around body composition.
Mhm.
Like, I would get really fixated on certain parts of my body too, which caused a lot of issues as well with how I viewed myself. And then again, what working out meant for me. Because when I got so fixated on it, it can really kind of take a
Or like
turn.
the different seasons that you're in, like whether you're in season or off season, all of that kind of stuff. And if my body looked like what it was supposed to look like in like the opposite season, I would be like, whoa, this isn't like you're just so ingrained to know and you get used to like how you're supposed to look at a different point in the year, a different point in the season. At least that was how it was for basketball. I was like, my arms need to look more toned right now. Like I need to be stronger or and then throw in and then doing a whole different workout after that, then, like, throwing in cycling, I was like, "Okay, my legs are definitely more powerful than they've ever been," and I'm noticing that too, and then working through that as well. Yeah, I know. If we would be remiss to not be talking about body image in this conversation too.
Yeah, totally, totally. I feel like they just go hand they literally go hand in hand. Obviously, that's probably its own
Mhm.
topic to discuss, but I just think it's relevant too, because you can I it's just like anxiety, how it manifests. Like, sometimes, like, I call it substitution. Like, we feel like we are less anxious about said thing, and then all of a sudden it substitutes to the next thing. So
Mhm.
I think for clients too, and or for anybody, but for myself, it's just more awareness, just
Mhm.
having more awareness for yourself, and also just being kinder, like being more gentle with yourself through this process, because it's really not linear at all. And like, you might feel like you're going in this direction, then you kind of pivot over this way. And like, I don't think it doesn't have to be so rigid. I think you have to figure out truly what works for you. But I think for me, that was trying different things,
Mhm.
probably like yourself, like trying different workouts, trying different classes, like recognizing, okay, like there was maybe a period for those group fitness classes. Don't get me wrong, I love them now. But like
Mhm.
now I feel like, okay, going for a walk, like you said, or
Mhm.
even just, hopping on a bike and just cruising. Like
Mhm.
that to me is so much more meaningful than the fixation I had on every muscle group or the fixation around, I'm not doing enough. So then I'm
Mhm.
not going to do anything at all.
Yep. Yeah. I think the other portion is too, or at least to go like sort of deep and personal I'm in my era of trying to get better with like allowing stretching to like count as moving my body. Like baseline, that is moving your body. It's probably the most basic thing that you can do. But for me, I'm still working through around incorporating that. But to get it back to like the motivation or my why, our bodies did so much for so long
True.
that for such a long age and probably did things too early on. I know that I was definitely doing certain workouts and different training things too early on because I wanted to get ahead of people or whatever that kind of that whole game and you fall into that too. But I think for me, something that's my little journey right now of like just trying to get involved with yoga and stretching a little bit more, which has been hard because it's not fast enough for me, but I'm working through it. But is reminding myself to like, oh, this is going to help my body do the other things that I want it to do. And this is going to help my body and maybe it's going to like heal some deeper like wounds, not legitimate like actual wounds or scar tissue or whatever. Like I have a lot of parts of my body that don't really allow me to do some of the workouts, but I think what is going to get me there is this like simple act of stretching or yoga or that too. So I think and you've helped me a bunch with this too, but like more like being in touch with your body too and recognizing, oh, okay, like if it's not ready for a bunch of sprints on a treadmill today, that doesn't mean it's nothing. It can be like doing literally like a 15-minute YouTube yoga thing from whoever people were doing in COVID. Like that's what I do now.
I love it. I love it. I know COVID taught us to slow down.
Mhm.
This is again another can of worms conversation, but like I do think that was another huge piece of this is we're as athletes, we're literally not taught how to slow down. And
Mhm.
when I even have these conversations with some of my athletes, they're like, but I can't. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I understand that. I really do. But learning even how to just take time out of your day, again, it can just be stretching, it can just be mindfulness, it can be meditation, it can be just like breath work or just movement or even, letting the sun hit your face. Like there's I think when you allow yourself to slow down more, I think then you're going to course correct in a way that is, again, more values based and just feels more aligned with yourself and your body. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't. It doesn't. Now, on the other end of this, I see a lot of athletes too. Like they want to, sports can also be a form of working out. I just want to highlight that, like playing beach
Yeah,
ball.
I was just about to say, like, I feel like there's so many aspects of our athletic identity that we
Yes,
very much still lean into. And I maybe would even go on record that I don't think that you're ever going to be able to get rid of it either. Like, there's so many competition is a huge motivator for me and a huge thing of like a why. I know that we love to enter in the little like races around the city or triathlons or
pickleball has become
yeah,
our new thing, our new obsession.
pickleball or like beach volleyball or all of the things that you can join in a city
Yeah,
that like on paper may not be like that competitive, but like you're still playing against someone and you're still kind of like fulfilling that part of what you have done for so long. And it's not and for some people it may be actually I don't want to do any of that and I don't want that to be a part of my life at all. I think me and you are at the point where like I want a little dose of it. I maybe don't want it to be governing every choice that I'm making,
100%.
but I do love still a little bit of that. Like I want to do a volleyball league. I want to train for the next thing. I want to do that because it motivates me, but I don't always have to be training for something, which is what I've been learning too.
1,000%. This is the whole healthy balance thing. I think,
Mhm.
again, it just kind of comes down to like assessing like where you're at in that moment. And there isn't a right or wrong with this. It really is. It comes down to the individual person and just working through it and talking about it and trying to understand, like, is this supporting me? Is this making me feel better? Is this fueling me in a healthy
Mhm.
way? Or is this becoming unhealthy? Like,
Mhm.
is this not is it making me feel worse? Like, is it taking up so much of my mental and emotional state as well? We can fixate on that all day long too, around going back to like it not being enough, not doing enough. So I
Mhm.
think too, just like kind of taking inventory is really important with this because I think it's a bit of a never ending cycle. However, I think it's just about finding your balance, like
Mhm.
your specific balance and recognizing what works and also just like what doesn't, what simply doesn't.
Yeah, I feel like something that I've been saying a lot with clients and on other podcasts for our loyal listeners who hear me all the time. But I it's like you can take what you like need and you can forget the rest. Like especially with us chatting and talking to you right now too. Like if something's aligning that we're saying, hold on to that. If it's not, maybe ask yourself, "Oh, why do I not like what they just said?" Or like, "Why am I kind of having a visceral reaction to something that we may have said?" And then yeah, again, taking inventory because I think we can be consuming so much information about what's the
Mm,
right way to start
yes.
working out again after playing sports? What should you not be doing? What should you be doing? All of those like really definitive words, which is what we're also trying to get away from anyways.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think that's the one thing that especially with like as Millennium has gone on to embark on like doing these podcasts and having us talk freely too, it's also a little bit on clients and people listening to be like, okay, what did I like about that and what did I not like about that? Just like we would ask in a therapy conversation or in a conversation with one of our clients. I guess I have a question for you, Sarah.
Yes. I love this.
One, I know like a lot of the checking and taking inventory we do with our clients in our sessions because we're having these curious conversations and slowing down. But what are some things that you or like tidbits or tangible things that you would give to a client to do that when they're not in session and they're not across from you and they're just kind of going about their everyday life, whether that be like tips to slow down or other ways to check in when you're not in therapy? Because I think it's easier to do that when you've blocked out that hour, which that should be celebrated. Blocking out a time to come to therapy weekly, every other week, monthly, or whenever you have time is a great start. But what are other things that you kind of suggest for people to do or work on outside of therapy when talking about
Mhm.
this too?
Yeah, yeah. It's so interesting because I always come back to like when I think of slowing down. I mean, a part of this is movement too, which is interesting. It doesn't always have
Mhm.
to be movement, but I mean, I'm like the queen. You said it, but I'm like the queen of walks.
Mhm.
That became a form of therapy for me. It's a catharsis, and that's just a personal experience. But I've seen this work for a lot of people too. So honestly, plugging in, like, getting outside of your own mind too. I'm so serious, you guys, like, getting outside more. I know the weather's, like, meh, but, like, get outside, get sunlight on your face. Like, there's this act of mindfulness that we experience when, 1, you're moving. If you're not in a place where you feel like, "I can meditate, I can do all the breath work right now," like, I get that. Like, there's progressions to this too. Some people I always encourage meditation, is so great for this, and actually, like, breath work, just, like, giving yourself time journaling, but for those who are, like who actually a lot of athletes struggle with that because we're not used to that, I'm like, "Get outside, go for a walk for no reason
Mhm.
except to clear the mind and the vessel and get some vitamin D. Listen to your favorite song, like, put on a
Mhm.
podcast, you know, or don't put on anything and just
Mhm.
observe the environment around you,
Mhm.
like, let things kind of flow into you naturally too, but go for a bike ride. Like, I encourage people to try something that is uncomfortable
Mhm.
for them because oftentimes they'll find something there. There's discomfort usually doing something that requires you to just slow down a little
Mhm.
bit and kind of sit with. more will come up. And I think that's a great time. One thing I used to do actually was I would walk for hours. It's aggressive. I would walk for hours, but I loved it. It was my me time. And I would, in the summers, it's the best in Chicago, like going to walk on the lake and whatnot. And I'd actually bring a journal with me. And then I would pause, I would sit, I would look at the water, I would reflect, I would
Mhm.
journal out, some feelings or things that I was experiencing, even in the body,
Mhm.
like why am I can feel the irritableness, like what am I feeling there? Like what needs to come up as a result of it? It doesn't have to be this like beautifully, this is what I'm going to talk about today. No, no, just like purge it on a page,
Mhm.
literally whatever comes out.
Totally. Something that I found myself doing the other day, which I'm actually gonna start telling people to do, I think. Walking around and looking at the, like, architecture of the buildings. Is it
Yes.
something that you do? I don't know.
Always look up. Look up because you're going to notice things. You're also changing your focal point
Mhm.
from looking down, which we're not in a state of awareness then. Like we are
Mhm.
literally think about you're also talking about energy. You're closing off your energy.
Mhm.
You're expanding your own mind and your body, and truthfully you're getting out of here. Sorry, I
Yeah.
love this, Lily.
No,
Yes.
wait, that's so funny that we've never spoken about that, but even just, like, walking around in the city and, like, different, like, colors. Literally, I was looking at, like, different colors of, like, bricks. I was like, "Whoa, I don't think I've ever seen, like, that deep of a red in this street." Like, weird stuff like that, which is, like, funny, but again, it's just, like, letting the environment be the environment that you are in and not like, I don't know, it was weird for me, and, like, also just, like, breathing, doing that too. It sounds so I feel like we're just like, "Do this, do that," but I don't know, it's also the part of it is, like, don't knock it till you try it too, and some things may work for people, and then things will work for other people, and especially in therapy too, I think that's also coming back and being like, "Okay, hey, I did what you suggested, not really my vibe, like, what's next on the list?" And we'll always have something something else that we can kind of throw into the situation, throw into the mix and see what works. And that's again where you kind of take what you want and leave the rest. And if something that you do isn't something that people on podcasts are telling you to do or your friends are doing, but if it's working for you, I don't think either of us are the type of clinicians that are going to be like, stop doing that. It's adaptive for you in some way. And it's definitely helping in a certain way too.
I couldn't agree more. I love that you're talking about looking up at the architecture. You know what's interesting?
Sometimes, since I'm so tall, it's actually for me, like, looking down a little bit because I feel like I'm always looking up. So for me, sometimes it's a little bit of a different it's actually not necessarily looking down, but it's so funny when I take photos for my friends, they're literally like, "Lily, you need to bend down." Like, the angle is so like, that's not a great angle for us. So they're literally like, "When you're taking a photo, please bend down." And I actually, like, it's a whole different point of view. So yeah, I guess takeaway from that is just like a different point of view can also connect you to the environment that you're embodying to.
100%. This is, what's so interesting about this? I had a college professor. I was a journalism major, and he was, what was it? It was for my creative copywriting class. It was probably my favorite class because you could be so creative with
Mhm.
all the copy and advertising. It was really like an advertising class, but he said this to me. He was like, or said this to all of us, but I was like, oh, I resonated with it. He was like, the most creative people are the ones who look up. And I was like, huh? And he was like, because you're just so immersed in the environment around you, and you'll be so shocked to find where your mind goes and what you actually notice. And I was like, that's so interesting. So for those who want, more creative juices out there, but it does spark, I think, a bit of creativity. But like you said, it's a different viewpoint. And I
Mhm.
love that. And this is the whole thing about shifting your views or noticing your values and your mindset. So yeah, I love that you mentioned that.
No, that's so funny. Okay, let's ring it back in for
Yes.
something around moving our bodies post. I think a big takeaway for me, again, this really goes to what we were talking about, but it was just like, and I think every aspect of my life outside of now being done with sports, movement, work, family, friendships, time, all of these things is just being a little bit more flexible and then being kind to yourself too, and allowing enough time to slow down to then reflect. on why something felt good or why something didn't feel good. So I think oftentimes we don't even notice what is feeling aligned versus what is feeling disconnected. And you just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And then you're like, wait, I don't know if I'm happy. So it's slowing down and kind of asking yourself, what did I like about that? Or even if it's like one thing that was like cool in that 5-minute walk, like what was one thing that like made me think about something differently or something like that. I don't know. Do you have a little takeaway or something you wanna leave the people with?
Yeah, I love that. I love that, like, that again, that piece of just, like, taking a like, I keep saying inventory or just, like, doing a little reflecting. And you guys, it doesn't have to be like we're saying, like, it doesn't have to be this, like, profound, reflective experience. Now, it can be,
Mhm.
but it doesn't, it doesn't have to be this, like, deep writing. It's just taking more note, being more of an active participant, I think, in your own life and your own journey through this too. And I love that, like, assessing, "Wait, do I even like this?" 'Cause
Yeah.
that happens a lot too. You're like, "Do I even enjoy this?" So,
Mhm.
that's okay if that comes up. I think the last takeaway from me, it would be, even on the days where you do the most minimal, okay? And maybe you got outside, maybe you walked for 5 minutes, or you know what? Maybe you did nothing.
Mhm.
Can you still hold space for yourself at the end of the night or in that moment and recognize, like, that you are enough? Like, and
Mhm.
I think that's the question sometimes we have to ask ourselves, like, can I be enough in this moment? Like, can I be enough with, that the minimal effort,
Mhm.
or whatever I've given today? Like, can that still be enough? Am I enough?
Mhm.
Mm.
No. I don't know if you told me this or someone else told maybe it was Amelia, but, like, if you have the 30% to give and if you give 30%, that's 100%. Like, that always calms me down at the end of the day. I'm like, "This was definitely not 100 for 100 day, but it was 100 because I had 20 and I gave 20."
Exactly. I love that. I
Yeah,
love that. I just used that with a client. It's great.
awesome. We
I
love it.
like this. Lily, this is great. Great
I know.
conversation.
So fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, stay tuned for the next one,
Yes.
everyone. We'll
Stay
talk to you later.